What happened to private investment? As you might have heard, American companies are sitting on $3 trillion. They don't know what to do with it. And people are saying, you should invest it. And I said, well, we'd invest it. And people would buy our goods, but who's going to buy our goods? The public. Private consumption. That's the only thing left. That's why they've been saying private consumption is the answer. We've got to stimulate effective demand, or whatever they call it. However, all this, what's all this doing? Well, that's stagnant, that's going down, that's going down. I get to exports and imports. Well, your employment's going down. Because this is going down. This is going down. Hang on, you want this to go up. But employment's going back into there. You can't do it. And this is what happened in the United States, in my country, Britain and France. Well, Germany was a little bit cleverer. Spain, Greece. I mean, look. And these politicians. Oh, how do they get elected? I mean, look. So every politician should know this equation. And it's really simple. Look, it looks complicated. You see, economists can complicate things. Yeah, I can complicate it with prices and money supply and exchange rates and this and that and that. But these are the basics. This is the basic Keynesian equation. And this is how Maynard Keynes stopped the recession in the 30s, and how little bits of this have helped in a way to keep the recession getting too deep, because Obama resisted cutting public consumption as much as he could, despite the Republican Party and Paul Krugman. Paul Krugman, New York Times, you know, has been arguing every day. You read his article, there's an op-ed every day, twice a week in the New York Times. It's very, very, very good. All he does is writes this, you know, he concentrates on little bits of this. You know. Let's talk about exports today. So, well, you can say, let's export. Sure. Right? So that's what people say, export-led growth. You've heard that expression. The whole world's in a recession. What are you going to export to? What everybody wants to do is increase their imports. Well, you increase imports, a negative thing is going to reduce output. And what was happening in the United States was they were allowing house prices to rise. Right? People were borrowing money from the Treasury, so they were printing money. And as they were printing money, they were using it to pay for imports coming from China. And you know, we're very interested in what the surplus is in China per year. $3 trillion. The same amount that's in private investment in American companies. There's a link somewhere. Well, there are all these equations do tend to link together. So imports are going up. This is going down too. So that's why, you know, it's amazing it didn't collapse entirely because of the politicians. There is a nice, and if you look on my website, I actually go through the whole story on this on MHC International. I think even on the front page I talk about employment. On my website is a video of me on employment.
Okay.
What happens is that there's the deficit and the debt. Okay, the deficit is the difference between government expenditure and government revenue in 1 year. Yeah. Taxes and expenditure. Okay. And consistently, governments tend to spend more than they earn in taxes. If you're a developing country, it's not too bad, because you need to, because you've got to develop, you've got to grow.
That's what happened recently to Greece.
But Greece is another story, but it's similar. But the thing is, the deficit. Okay. Now, the thing is with the debt. Okay, if you get negative deficit every year, minus $100 every year, after 10 years you go to minus $1,000, and that's your debt. However, if you can pay off your debt, what's the problem? See, when you buy a house in England, they used to say you could buy a house with a mortgage, with a debt, three times your income. Right? Now, in none of those countries is the debt, not the deficit, the debt, 3 times the income. It's not. It's not even bigger than the income in a year. Interesting. So they could afford to pay off their debts, especially in a time of recession. In fact, they could have afforded to increase their debt by 50%. They would have doubled it. And then they wouldn't have had a recession. They'd have had growth. And they could have paid off their debt easily. Krugman. Keynes. Look at myself. I used to be an economist before I went into C. What I'm going to go to